Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Introverted Indies. I'm Lucy A. McLaren, and alongside my fellow author Lydia Baker, I run Introverted Indies as a YouTube channel just to get to know our fellow indie authors as a means of trying to help other indie authors, other introverted authors, I should say, get out there because we know how difficult it is, talking about your work, marketing your books, all that kind of stuff. So today I'm joined by Isa Ottoni, who I met. I think we met, was it FSF Writers Alliance, maybe? Perhaps even
Yeah.
before that. Because we're both in part of a Discord group for writers. But yeah, we've known each other for a little while. So I'm very excited to chat to you about your upcoming book. But if you go ahead, Issa, and introduce yourself a little bit.
Hi, I'm Isa. I'm always awkward at this part because I never know what to say. But yeah, I'm Isa Ottoni. I'm a writer. I write fantasy mostly, but I dabble a little bit with sci-fi and horror. I've started writing short stories and publishing them while also working on novels, full-length novels. And my debut novel is coming sometime next year, which I'm very excited and still can hardly believe that's actually happening. I'm Brazilian. I live in Portugal and I also have like day jobs as it is, of course. But I love writing. It's been my passion, reading and writing as well. I'm really, really happy to be here. Thank you, Lucy, for inviting me, for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on. Yeah, I'm excited to chat and get to know you because, like I said, we've known each other for a little while, but I know some of your short stories because you've been in some of the anthologies that we did for the FSF Writers Alliance. And you've had short stories in Dragon Soul Press books as well, haven't you? Their anthologies, and I love your short stories. So I'm very excited to read your full book, which is coming sometime next year from Owl Talyn Press, because we've both got books coming from the next year, which is exciting.
Yeah.
Um, so you haven't revealed the title of it yet, but what can you tell us about it?
Okay. I haven't because I really want to discuss with the editors, see if it's
Yeah.
the right title as it is. So after I chat with them, I'll be able to tell more.
Hmm.
It is a working title that I do love, but I mean, it's always good to discuss these things. And I don't want to change it later
Yeah,
after I have
absolutely.
told people about it. So basically, it is my first novel. It's the first full-length novel that I've written, but it is very different now from what it was like five or 6 years ago.
Hmm.
So it has been through loads of revisions and rewritings because I've been learning since I started, like, yes,
Yeah.
I'm gonna write stories. I've been learning a lot. So I'm really proud of what it is now. I think it's like a much stronger story, and I'm
Hmm.
super happy that somebody else out there also thought so. So it is a fantasy. I'm calling it Dark Cottage Core
Hmm. Love
because
that description.
genres
Yeah.
is, yeah, genres is always hard to pinpoint. It's not an actual
Mm.
genre actually, but I feel it fits
Mm.
the bill. It is a story about a mother with a sick 2-year-old, and she's gonna do whatever she can to save this child. She starts off in a very bad marriage and situation, which she has to escape. And as a last resort, she's gonna look for a trade witch who lives somewhere in the forest. The witch will actually like take her in, but is unable to cure the child in a way. But it's gonna help B, that's the name of Beatrice, that's the name of
Hmm.
my protagonist, to find a cure. So while she's in this quest, she's also going to reclaim her own power. She's going to discover that her own autonomy and her own agency as well. But she's going to have a lot to overcome because she's a very angry, traumatized young woman. So it's also a story about revenge and redemption. There is a little bit of romance, but it's not a romance. But I love love, so there is a little bit of that as well. So yeah, she's gonna go on this magical quest across dangerous lands, and she's gonna learn how far she's willing to go to save her child, and what she's willing to do if she fails.
Hmm. It
So
sounds
yeah, it's a
fantastic.
very, yeah, I mean, I like this. I hope people enjoy that too.
Yeah, I'm excited to read it. I've said that to you a lot of times because I've seen kind of the snippets that you've shared on your social media and your description of it, having a lot of feminist rage, which is great. And I think it's very appropriate for, current times, the current things that we're seeing in our, contemporary society. I think it sounds great. So I'm really excited to read it. So what was the inspiration for you behind the story? Because it sounds like you were writing it, you're working on it for quite a few years.
So it started as something else entirely, and B was a side character, actually.
Okay.
She
Mhm.
was like, yeah, she was a side character in another story. And at some point, when I had no idea what I was doing, because that story like never had an ending, it was just like me rambling stuff on my notebook.
Mhm.
But at some point in that story, B sits down and tells a story. She goes like, "This is how I became this, what you see now."
Mhm.
And then I realized like I had a full story here. I had a full book here with this
Yeah.
snippet of like her telling the other characters her journey. I was like, okay, so maybe that's my book. That's not this other thing that I
Mm.
started having no idea where it's going. I think it comes from this idea. So I've come from Brazil, which is a developing country. I am a woman, so I know I also have my privileges, of course. That's something that we always have to acknowledge.
Mhm.
But like being a woman coming from a developing country, I've always thought about a lot of social issues in a way, and why like things such as like violence happens, like what is it the root of like people
Mhm.
aren't bad, but like situations may drive them to do horrible
Mm.
things in a way. And if it came from this idea that like anyone can fall, like anyone can do terrible things if they are
Mhm.
pushed too far. But it also possible to find redemption if you have like the right environment, if you have the right like aid, and if you're giving the opportunity to find
Mhm.
it. I kind of blended that idea with the idea of, I don't want to give too much, but like those are themes that are explored in a way.
Yeah.
But in fantasy, when we talk about like fairies, and witches
Mhm.
and vampires, there is this theme of immortality
Mhm.
being something that is always explored, and I am terrified of death. So, like, immortality seems like a good thing.
Mm.
But when you look into it, you see, like, maybe not. Maybe this big thing that we're all very scared of is what actually gives value or gives meaning to
Mm.
life. So, yeah, it's like weird because, again, it's something that it's being developed for a long time, but I try to explore these themes, like what it means to be a woman in a patriarchy
Mhm.
society, what it means to actually push back when the word pushes against you, to accept that death is part of life in a way.
Mhm.
So yeah, I wish I could say
Yeah.
more, but like I'm really excited for people to read it.
Yeah. No, I understand. You got to find the balance of sharing but not spoiling. I fully
Yeah,
appreciate that.
it's hard.
It is, yeah. But yeah, so a lot of kind of, yeah, real life inspiration from your own life and experiences and seeing stuff in your own country. Yeah, I think that's for me that's what makes stories so kind of compelling is kind of that exploration of bigger themes like that you can then link across to real world stuff, real
Yeah.
world things that we're literally experiencing en masse at the moment. Um, so fantasy dark cottagecore. That's a very specific, like niche genre. But
Yes.
your short stories are kind of more varied, aren't they, in terms of the genre
Yeah.
that you write it? I know they've always got a kind of fantastical element, I want to say, but they're not always that strictly fantasy, are they?
Yeah. No, no, they're not. I love short stories because I think of them as like pocket universes. So which I can explore, I can dive in and dive out.
Hmm.
So it's this very one-off experience. and I kind of love that. Um, so yeah, I've written my first short story ever. It's here was published with Fun Employment Press,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's called Brasa, which is also like from my country, Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about a dragon who just want to take a nap, but like heroes are always trying to slay him. So I thought this very compelling story. Like, okay, heroes want to slay dragons, but do dragons want to be slayed? Like, maybe we should hear the other side of the story. And I began as a pantser, so I never know where things are going until I
Mm.
see them happening on page. And it turned out like funny in a way. There was a lot of humor that I didn't know I had in
Mm.
me. So yeah, that was pretty fun. I've also had a couple of like sci-fi stories as well. They aren't out yet, but I think they are very fun as well. I
Mm-hmm.
have the Pirate Goat. So this is kind of fun because this one, it's actually a spin-off of my debut.
Ah,
So the
okay.
MCP, yeah. But then again, it's like I spin off in an alternative universe because the stories don't actually connect. But it is
Mm.
her after the story in a way. So like after
Okay.
everything happened, she's gonna go on an adventure. So that's kind of fun. For the our anthology, I have two here. Um, one is the Azulis Minerva, which is inspired by Greek mythology, which I also adore.
Mm-hmm.
The inspiration for this one, I was actually watching a YouTube show about Bath in England,
Mm-hmm.
Aquasulis, which is a historical site. And Aquasulis, I discovered it was because Sulis was an ancient Gaelic goddess of the spring. And when the Roman Empire came there, they just kind of like attached Minerva and they
Okay.
would worship like one goddess,
Mm-hmm.
the Sulis Minerva as one goddess. But then in my story, I was like, maybe no, maybe there are two goddesses. And maybe Sulis just like took a break and Minerva took over. And I took a lot of inspiration from the reality of the site, which was that
Mm.
people would write petitions to the goddess in little sheets of lead
Mm-hmm.
and ask for stuff. And they were like actually petty stuffs. Somebody stole my mantle, so like I want a revenge. So I just ran with that. That was really fun.
Yeah.
And the other one is yours truly. It's about a journalist trying to interview a fairy, and it's written in a epistolary manner, which I love. Like it's like a letter to his editor.
Mm-hmm.
So that was also really fun to write because it's kind of like weird in a way. And I have a horror that I didn't know it was a horror in our existing magazine. It's an online, yeah, it's called The
Mm-hmm.
Switch. And it's about a kid who compulsively turns on and off a switch, but the switch doesn't control anything. But the kid thinks that something horrible is going to happen if he doesn't. And he's kind of right.
Yeah. So kind of a varied range of different styles and
Yeah.
genres. But like you said, it is like a pocket universe of you just diving into this very short story. You've got a very kind of condensed amount of words in which to tell your story. And I love your short stories. I think you're great at just kind of very quickly diving into like the essence of the story. Your characterizations are really good and compelling. But how do you find it different? Right, like short story and novel writing obviously is just it's a completely different ball game, isn't it? It's so different.
It's so different. Oh my gosh, no, it's so different. Um, I mean, the level of effort you have to put is different, of
Mm,
course. But for me, the trickiest thing about a novel, because if it's long, so you're gonna have many threads and many plots, and
hmm
that you have to connect everything together, and the length of it. So it's not something that you can do in one go. That's different from a short story.
hmm
So a short story, I will write the first draft, and then I will see like what are the threads, what are the themes, what I'm trying to say, and then I will fix it. And I can't fix it at once. It might
hmm
take like many, like not just at this time, but every time I sit down, I can look at the story as a whole and I go
hmm
over it as a whole, a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Hmm.
I can't do that with a novel. I have to do
Nope.
it like in parts, so it's more like a Frankenstein kind of thing. And
Hmm.
it is difficult to connect everything. I think that's why I'm learning to plot, because you have to be aware of the different things that are happening. You can't forget stuff because you're not going to be able
Hmm.
to read everything like in one go. So now I think I'm somewhere in between, like a plotster. I don't know how to say that. But
I
yeah,
know what you mean.
I think
Yeah.
that's very difficult because you're gonna have like many different threads that you have to connect at the end to say what you want to
Hmm.
say, without overdoing it, without doing it like underdoing it, because
Hmm.
I would sometimes like rush my plot, and forget about the details, or spend too long on something that it's not worth it.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think it's very challenging writing a novel.
Mm. Yeah, there's a big difference, isn't there? Like, I think when you're a pantser writing a short story, yeah, you can just do it in one go. You're just discovering what happens and you wrap it up very quickly, and then you can go back in, like you said, quickly again and just look at it all and fix it where you need to. Whereas a
Hmm.
book, yeah, you can start out pantsing it, but it does become harder the more like plots come in, the more characters come in. Yeah, I found that too because I like to just start writing, um,
Hmm.
see what happens. But yeah, you do reach a point where you kind of have to take a step back and think, okay, what am I trying
Yes.
to achieve here?
Yeah, exactly. Like in a short story, I can keep everything in my mind. Like I'm very aware
Hmm.
of all the details. But in a novel, it's impossible. You have too many of them.
Hmm.
So yeah, I find it much more challenging. I'm writing a second novel now that I'm working with my writing group.
Hmm.
It's on the third draft right now. But then again, like I often have to come back and look at it again and flesh out what it should be fleshed out, and
Hmm.
it's really hard, but it's
Yeah.
also very fun. I love it.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's that thing of writing is challenging, but also when you feel drawn to writing, there's nothing else you can imagine yourself doing. You just feel like this is
No.
sometimes it really annoys you and it's frustrating
Yes.
and it's the last thing you want to do, but there's that weird part of you that's like, no, I have to do this. But that sounds good. So
Yeah.
third draft of your new book. How is it working with the writing group?
Well, I mean, I think a writing group is essential. Like, I don't think we can work without one. And if you don't have a group, at least a critic partner, because
Mm,
we do have blind spots when it
yeah.
comes to our own work. Like, I can see things very clearly in other people's work, and then I'm doing the same, and I can see that I'm doing
Yeah.
the same. So, working with a writing group, I used to have a different one last year, which I worked with my for
Hmm.
my debut novel. Now I'm in a different group because groups they tend to change.
Hmm.
But like it's been invaluable. It's been invaluable to listen to their
Yeah.
feedbacks. You have
Hmm.
different perspectives. You have different understandings. And the thing is, you won't be able to explain your book, right? Like you won't be able to be with your reader explain, no, this is what I meant. So your
Exactly.
text
Yeah.
has to speak for itself. Yeah, your text
Hmm.
has to speak for itself. And that's when another set of eyes comes in
Mm.
handy, because you need to see if you are communicating what you you meant to communicate. And
Hmm.
sometimes you aren't. Like, for example, I just
Yeah.
got back. I do have a writing session today,
Hmm.
and I got some of the feedback. And one of my friends were like utterly confused about a scene. Like he like absolutely did not understand who the characters were, and I was like, okay, that's good to know because it was
Mm.
clear in my mind, but
Yeah.
clearly it wasn't clear in the text. So that's something that I'm gonna
Hmm.
have to look for. Another
Mm.
thing is that English is my second language, so
Hmm.
like having native speakers looking at my text, it's just invaluable because I will pick
Hmm.
words because they sound pretty, and then they're gonna go, nope, that's not the word that you want. And I'm like,
Yeah.
but why not? Like, it's so pretty. No, 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 you can't. And I have people from the United States. I have people from England, from Scotland.
Hmm.
So it's really good to see like different types of English in a way,
Yeah.
looking at what I've written.
Mm.
So I'm very thankful for them.
Yeah, that's great.
Really
Yeah, because you
thankful.
diverse range of people. Yeah, there's different colloquialisms in language, and then like phrases and stuff. And depending on the kind of place you want your book to be set in, like some places are
Exactly.
more like Victorian London or whatever, or Americanized, or yeah. So that sounds really invaluable. Like you say, it's
Oh my gosh.
it
My
you
greatest fear is like that I will pick, sorry, no,
no,
it's just
okay,
I
go
will
on.
pick like a colloquialist from Texas, from a character that is from English, like because I've
Yeah.
heard and I think like everybody's gonna say that. No. So yeah, they are
Hmm.
great for this.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's I think that's one of the most valuable parts of social media, for example, or Discord groups, is meeting and connecting with other writers who provide that kind of outside input, that the outside eyes, because yeah, you don't realize how kind of close and blind you are to like plot holes or repetitive phrases, for example, to stuff like that, until someone else goes, "You've said this like 15 times in the past few chapters."
Oh my
Um,
gosh, yes.
it's
And we see it in others, but we don't. For
yeah.
me, it was hard. I was like always talking about heart and heart, and then my friends were like, "How many hearts do these guys have? Like, can you use something else?" I was like, okay.
Yeah, we always have those little things, don't we? They would just like to say over and over again. But that's what editing is for.
Yes,
It's just
exactly.
it's one of those things that you can't really avoid. I don't think it just happens. It's I think it's probably part of your writer voice is just you say these certain
Yes.
things over and over again. Um, so have you always wanted to be a writer?
I mean, the answer is yes. I've always, because
Hmm.
I've always read a lot. Since I can remember, I've been reading books, fantasy books more specifically. But I always thought of it as like a dream that, like I didn't think it was possible. So, like, yes, I always wanted to write a book, but I always thought it was like, no, that's not for me now
Hmm.
or ever, maybe. Because again, growing up in Brazil, I only had access to bestsellers, and that's a
Hmm.
very like small pool of
Yeah.
writers, a small pool of voices even. Like I didn't have
Hmm.
access to this brilliant diversity that I have now. In the 90s and early 2000s, like indie books were not a thing.
No.
So for me, as like a teenager in Brazil, thinking I could ever write a book and publish a book was really impossible. Like it was an
Hmm.
impossible dream. So I've I used to write like little things here and there,
Hmm.
but for a long time I was very like career oriented with my profession, my career. So I was like,
Hmm.
yes, this is the path for me. But then at some point, I also teach English as second language, as like a side
Hmm.
hustle. I've been doing this since college. I love it, so I just like kept doing it. And I was talking to my friend, another teacher, and was like, yeah, maybe I'm gonna give this a go, like for sure. And I'm gonna write in English because, like I'm teaching English. I think this is gonna
Yeah.
help me.
Hmm.
But then I spent like 2 or 3 years writing just for me. That
Hmm.
was my promise. Like, nobody is going to read this, so I can write whatever I like. Doesn't matter, it
Hmm.
doesn't have to be good. And actually, I think that was really valuable because
Hmm.
it allowed me to explore my writing without getting self-conscious in a way.
Hmm. Yeah.
But it became very lonely, like
Yeah.
very lonely because I was writing a lot but just me with my computer. That's when I found Richie Billings' Discord channel. I
Yes.
met you
Hmm.
guys. We formed the
Hmm.
alliance, and I was like, oh, this
Hmm.
community is great. Maybe it is possible. Maybe it is possible. I met you. I was
Yeah.
like, Lucy, she's published. She has a book, and she's here talking to me. And like, honestly, for me,
Hmm.
I still have this small town Brazilian girl who's like, I have
Hmm.
author friends. Like, this is crazy. This is like
Hmm.
absolutely bollocks, really. And you guys were so kind. You were so nice. I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. Maybe I'm gonna give this a go. And
Hmm.
when I published like Brasa, I was like, okay. I
Yeah.
mean, it is possible, right? It is
Hmm.
possible. So I'm always so grateful. I'm always so blown away that I actually managed to be here today and having stories out and with the
Mm.
possibility like my debut novel is coming. Like, what? It
It
is
feels
great.
like it's
It's a dream come true.
yeah. It sounds like it's still sinking in for you, like that for your debut.
Absolutely. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Gosh, absolutely. I'm like, when I got the email back, I honestly thought it was a joke. I was like, no, that's
Oh,
not. That's like catfish kind of situation, you know? Like,
hmm
no, 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 it can't be. And then I talked to you, and we're like,
hmm
no, it's real. I was like, okay. So yeah, it is still sinking
hmm
in. I still can hardly believe. I'm very grateful.
hmm
So grateful.
Yeah, it's exciting. Is it different to getting your short stories published? Does it feel like, I don't know, like a big step? I mean, it's because the thing is, right, getting short stories published is like a separate thing because you've had a lot of success with that, getting your short stories picked up. I've had very little success in comparison. I feel like short stories are difficult to nail, and you found that you're very good at short stories at
Oh,
just kind
thank
of
you.
nailing that story and getting it just right, getting the beats right, and getting your book picked up. It's like it's a separate thing, isn't it? It feels like it's just
It
different
is.
to the short story side of
It
things.
is. I mean, I cried when I got published for the first time with Fun Employment. Like I
Hmm
literally cried. I was like, really? But yes, and short stories, I've been very lucky, but I also have short stories that haven't been picked up. So it's not
hmm
like every short story you write is gonna be published. No, I have like two or three that I love. I think they're great stories,
Yeah.
but they've come back, they've bounced it back time and
hmm
again. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's the wrong time. Maybe I haven't found
Yeah.
the right place. I'm not gonna give up because I do love them, but I would
hmm
give like some time for them to breathe, you know? So I think what is good with trying to publish short stories is that you get used to rejection. And I think in this
Mm,
business, that's very good thing. So in the
absolutely.
beginning, I would get really bummed out, but now it's just like, okay, next time.
hmm
So I have seven or eight short stories published, but I've
hmm
written like 20, 25. So like
hmm
not all of them is gonna see
Yeah,
the light of day.
that's true.
But yes, a novel is different. A novel, because it's so long that you spend working on them. Like,
Mm,
as I said, like started writing this 5, 6 years ago. I
yeah.
honestly didn't think I was gonna publish this because this was my
hmm
first novel. I was like, yeah, that's okay if I never publish. I was working on
hmm
the second one that might be more marketable because it's a romantasy, it has vampires.
hmm
So when it came back, like, yes, we actually want this story. I was like, okay, okay. It is different. It is very different,
hmm
and I'm so happy. Like honestly, Owl Talyn
mm,
Press, they were like incredible.
hmm Yeah, they seem very enthusiastic. Because yeah, it's obviously us both working with them, it's fun to like have a chat. We were like getting excited about our books coming out. I think there are kind of similar themes in our books. So it would be great when we get a release date and we can kind of both
Yes.
talk about our books and have a chat more in depth about them. So I'm looking forward to that. So
Yeah,
what
me
what would
too.
it's going to be fun, isn't it? It's yeah. Is there, I think they're both going to be out next year. Date to be confirmed, right? So watch
Yeah.
this space for both of our books there. Um, so what would be the thing that you'd say you've kind of learned from over the past 5 years of writing your book? Like, what do you wish you knew 5 years ago when you started out on that journey?
Okay. So, writing craft itself, I think it's something that I've been learning.
hmm
I have never had like formal training in writing fantasy, but I try to get as much um, education as I could. So like
hmm
I've watched YouTube channels, like loads of them. I read books about it. I heard chats about it. I talked to people about it. So I was really, because I am a professor, I am a teacher, so I
hmm
think education is something like I love learning. So I'm gonna learn to do this. So when I think about like the first early drafts, I see like everything that I was doing wrong. So it's a much more like morose process because you
hmm
get like wrong and wrong and wrong until you get it right. So I think the second one I'm better, so like it's easier in a way.
hmm
I think we have to learn the rules to be able to break them.
Yeah.
purposefully. You know, like you
Hmm.
gotta know your rules. I think that's important. And then you break them when you want, but you can
Yeah.
break them if you don't know them in a way, you know?
Yeah.
So, like character depth, character arc, I feel that's very important. Structure of a story is very important. How to wave
Hmm.
theme, show no tell. Like I know a lot of people are very like against this rule. I'm not. I think that's a great rule.
Mm.
You learn to show, don't tell, and then you choose
Hmm.
when to tell. You know, like
Yeah.
telling is
Exactly.
important, but you gotta learn the other one to be
Hmm.
able to do the telling part in a impactful way, for example.
Hmm.
Engage in the senses, I think that's very important. You know, when you're writing, setting the scene, how to do it in a yeah, like with purpose, you know, like
Hmm.
the things that you put on page, they have to mean something. They have to
Mm.
be there for a reason. So like there would be a lot of filler that you don't need, so you get rid of
Hmm.
it. And I think the short story is helpful because of that. You learn how to be
Yeah.
economical. I have
Hmm.
one short story in 101 Words magazine, which
Hmm.
has to have exactly 101 words, and I
Hmm.
was able to tell a story within this. So you learn to
Yeah.
go to, it's like just the bare minimum, you know, like the bones of
Hmm.
the story. And you gotta trust your reader. You gotta trust the reader will pick those things up. Like
Hmm.
you are writing for intelligent people.
Hmm.
So don't dumb things down for them. You don't have to keep repeating yourself. You don't have to be very like overt. I think
Hmm.
it can be covered. So like subtext, I think that's the one thing that we all need to learn. For
Mm.
dialogue, that's like so important, but even in
Hmm.
your narrative, subtext is so important. Because I'm also a reader. I read so much. And when I pick those things up and I see what the writer did there, you know, like, oh, I got you. It's so satisfying.
Yeah. It
You know,
is.
it's so
Yeah.
satisfying to like discover those things that were like subtle within the
Hmm.
text. So I want to do that too. So I think those are the things that I've learned. I've learned that community is everything. It's everything, I think. I wouldn't be able to be here without the community. Persistence, so resilience. Don't give up. Don't give up. I think that's the biggest one. Rejection is
Yeah.
gonna happen. Deal
Hmm.
with it and like get sad, cry. It's okay, but like
Hmm.
pick yourself up and keep trying and enjoy it. I think that's the thing. Like enjoy it. It has to be fun. You know, you have to like what you are writing. You
Mm.
have to have fun with your characters. You have to
Hmm.
love them, hate them, you know. They gotta feel like real people. When they do, that's when you know the story is working.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. What's your favorite like book or like YouTube that you've watched that was writing advice? Like, what's a recommendation you'd give?
Okay, I always recommend Brandon Sanderson's lectures. I think,
Yeah, they're great.
like, honestly, I'm not into his books, to be honest. I know
Me
that's
neither.
kind of like a scene. I've read Miss Bourne, was like, okay, that's fun, but not for me exactly.
I was the
But
same, honestly.
but his lectures, they are so good, and they are like college lessons. So
Yeah.
again, that's the kind of opportunity that I never thought I would have, you know, to be able to watch a college
Hmm.
lesson about creative writing with somebody who is published. So I think his lessons are like if you want to write a book, fantasy or sci-fi, you gotta watch it. I think that's where I would start. I do have other YouTube channels that I've watched. There's one that I love that it's called Hello Future Me.
Hmm.
And Hello Future Me, his name is it's a boy from New Zealand, a man. I can't remember his name, but the name of the channel is Hello Future Me, and he
Hmm.
does these video essays about writing
Hmm.
that are great. He actually has three books on writing, and it's called On Writing, Volume One,
Hmm.
Two, and Three. I really want to get those. I haven't, but he has series like about dragons, and he explores like
Mhm.
mythology, where they come from, how to use them. He has others on like topography. It's a lot like word building.
Mhm.
It's a lot on word building, language, and his videos are really fun to
Mm.
write, to watch, sorry. Really fun to watch, and I also
Mhm.
learn a lot from him.
Mm.
Another one, what's the name? Sorry, Lucy, let me check because this one is actually pretty good.
Mhm.
It's it's red and blue, so it's two people, and they have trope talks. So they have
Mhm.
a series that is called Trope Talks, and they talk about the tropes, where they come from, and how you can
Mhm.
use to like subvert them.
Mhm.
It's called overly sarcastic productions. Yes,
Mhm.
overly sarcastic productions, and they have a series Trope Talk. So they like time
Sounds good.
loops, you know. Yeah,
Mhm.
so I also thought that was really, really, really good,
Mm.
because to learn about tropes and how to subvert them. And I also thought that was really, really helpful. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm recommending YouTube channels because it's like watching a class. I learn more than just like reading books. I have a couple of like writing crafty books. Save the
Mhm.
Cat is one that we always recommend as well. But I don't know,
Yeah.
I like YouTube because it's actually like you also have a community there. You can comment, you can
Mhm.
interact with the videos. So I would recommend those three for people who want to start. And if you want to write short stories, you have to watch Brenda Sanderson's lectures. I think it's the number 7.
Mm.
It is with a writer who writes short stories, and she actually has like a little exercise that you can do along. And I
Mhm.
think that's very, very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. Seconded on those. Those are fantastic lectures. Really in depth, and like you were saying about the rules, like learning the rules to break them. If that's one place to go, he kind of sets it all out.
Yes.
Yeah, in each lesson. So yeah, I highly recommend those too. Perfect. Okay. So what do you do when you're not writing, Isa? Because obviously you said you're a professor. That's takes up probably a lot of time.
Yes, I do so many things. Like, okay, so yes, I am a professor. I have a PhD in food consumption sciences. So, like, I'm a nutritionist,
Mhm.
and I teach here at university. So that's something that I do. I also teach English as second language. So that's another thing I do. But not work related. I love arts and crafts.
Mhm.
Because my book's about a witch. I've been getting into witchcraft, like real life witchcraft, which is fun. I love
Yeah.
it. So if you look around, like I have all sorts of like
Mhm.
potion ingredients, and I've been doing these little things that I've been obsessed
Oh,
with,
that's
and
so
I have like
cool.
hundreds of them already. Yes, like honestly, I do. I have lots of them. I think it's kind of like meditative because I can't
Mm.
meditate, but when I'm like braiding,
Yeah.
it really helps. I suffer with anxiety, so you can see like there and
Mhm.
one here,
Oh, they're
another
lovely.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I really like those. So yeah, everything that is arts and crafts, I love. So like painting and braiding and building stuff,
Mhm.
learning about this real life witchcraft, which is so interesting because it comes from
Mm.
a very feminine practice, like the cunning woman, and the hate for witches is rooted in misogyny. So like the
Yeah.
history of witches is something that I'm enjoying learning so much
Mhm.
because I've always looked to witchcraft through the lenses of fantasy. Now I'm looking more the historical sides, and it's like
Mhm.
so so interesting. I draw a little bit, I paint a little bit. I like to go out and like parks and and nature. I love it. I have my plants here at home as well. So yeah, I think that's what I do mostly.
Mhm.
And I read. I read a lot. I love
You
reading.
do.
I'm such a fangirl. Like when I find a book that I love, I get like so excited.
Mhm.
I'm back in my teenage years. Oh my gosh, yes. So those are the things that I do mostly. So I will have like an audiobook while I'm reading,
Mhm.
or while I'm walking. If I'm on the train because I have to commute to work, I'm reading, I'm on my phone.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm either writing, reading, arts and crafts, or working. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
basically my life.
Mhm. Yeah, it sounds great. And yeah, you are personally responsible for increasing my to be read pile with your reviews that you do on Instagram because every book
Yes.
that you share, you're obviously so passionate about it, and I'm like, well, that sounds great. I'm gonna have to read that.
I am. I like I DNF books and I don't talk about the books that I don't
Yeah.
like. It's just like my personal policy because I know
Hmm.
how hard it is to write a book and I'm not here like maybe the book's
Yeah.
not for me.
Hmm.
And I'm not a reviewer. That's not my job. I'm a writer and I enjoy
Hmm.
books. I'm a reader. So I only share the books that I truly love and I do get really into them and I get really excited and I want people to read it.
Hmm.
I'm trying to read more within my genre because that's like a marketing strategy, you know? So
Hmm.
I'm trying to read more about like witchcraft and older protagonists or protagonists who are mothers, things like that.
Hmm.
But I will always divert. Because if the book is great, the book is great. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna love it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
recommend it. So yeah, I do that. I try to read one book a week, one
Hmm.
book, like finish one book a week. Sometimes it's not possible. Like November, I'm really busy. Like I have many,
Mm.
many classes, so
Hmm.
it will take more time. But other months I will be more free, and then I'm gonna read more.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds well. The holiday period's coming up, right? So you'll get more, we get time off to read then.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Hmm.
I'm planning on spending Christmas and New Year with my pile, my TBR pile.
That sounds like a perfect plan. All right, so we're at the quick fire round. So I'm going to ask you to just give one answer, no explanation. The first one might be a challenge, knowing how much you read. Favorite book?
My gosh. Okay. Let me stop Avalon.
Hmm. Okay. Favorite game?
Game. I don't play many games. Oh my gosh. Am I gonna say Candy Crush? I'm gonna say Candy Crush.
No judgment, all right? It's a fun, like, get a lot of people play that for a reason.
I'm not
Um,
a gamer. I like it's just like my
that's fine.
phone.
That counts as a game. It's a game. Right. Favorite film?
Oh my gosh, Lucy, that's so hard. I don't know. Nimona. That's okay. It's animation.
Hmm. Absolutely. And favorite writing beverage?
Ooh, tea. Green tea.
Hmm. Cool. Yeah, I'm a tea person as well. So many people say coffee, and I'm like, no, tea.
Coffee's for the mornings. Mornings it's
Mm,
coffee for sure, but like
hmm.
yeah, tea.
Yeah.
Hot tea.
Hmm. Cool. Okay, so we'll wrap up there. But to wrap up, could you tell us like where can we follow you? So, where's the best place to learn about you, your books?
Yes. So I'm on Instagram. That's where I am most of my time at Isa Ottoni Writes, like Isa.Ottoni.writes. We can chat there. I'm always there. I'm always looking to grow my community there. So just say hi. I would love to see your page as well. And I'm also on Substract. Substract is like a website and newsletter. So if you want to
Mhm.
subscribe, you're gonna get one newsletter, monthly newsletter about my work and what is going on in my life.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll put the details in the description as well so people know where to follow you. But thank you so much for joining me. It's been really lovely chatting to you.
Thank you, Lucy. It's been a blast.
It
Thank you
has.
for having me. I love
And
this.
do thank you. And do just keep your eyes open for Issa's debut novel coming out in 2025 from Owl Talyn Press. Thank you everyone. Take care. Bye bye.